That's ugly. Could have done.
Should have done.
Today we are speaking with Occult Priestess Corinne Wilson. Thank you very much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Dave. Audience, I bugged Dave and said, Dave, could we do a show about sleep paralysis? He's like, sure, honey. I was like, oh, good, thank you. So I definitely requested to come on here and see you guys.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a voice come out of your mouth that, you know, like an accent? Have you ever gotten into an accent mood where you're just speaking in an accent?
I mess around with all kinds of accents and stuff. I even do Scooby-Doo.
Can we hear it, please?
No, I can't do it. So I can't do it on demand. That's the problem.
Oh, no Scooby-Doo on demand.
I can't do Scooby-Doo on demand. It's like
I understand. The recorded voice is so strange. When I was a child, I would record my voice, and you have a child's mind. You're thinking a bit different. And I had the voice of very, very high child. Hello, how are you? Very high. Whoa, do I sound that way? And I like literally lowered my voice on purpose. And I'm like, I didn't keep in mind, hey, you're a freaking kid. You're supposed to sound like a fairy, you know, you're supposed to sound that way. I was trying to be like the adult and sound very professional.
That's funny.
Sometimes I get an accent just from a spirit guide, from somebody who's upstairs and comes from a different country. A lot of the time over the past 4 years, watching conspiracy videos, I would auditorily clairaudience, which means I hear it in my head, not through my ear hole. I would hear the word Bolsheviks. Like, Bolsheviks? What's a Bolshevik? And I would feel the heavy accent, this dark accent of the Bolsheviks, of the spirit guide that is angry at the Bolsheviks. And I had to do all of this research and like, what the heck's a Bolshevik? And now in our news, you can see that they're talking about Bolshevikism all the time.
All the time.
Explain that to me, Dave. Explain that to me, please. Not the voice, but Bolsheviks. Why that's a hot topic today.
Well, because Russia's in the news a lot because of Trump.
Okay, well, it wasn't literally Russians who were Bolsheviks. It was more of a religious sect. So my spirit guide was looking at conspiracy videos, and this is not Hermes. This is a different guide. Looking at conspiracy videos, and that instead of saying the New World Order, which is something I would say, right? They were saying Bolsheviks. And that got me to do the research. And that happens to me all the time. I'll hear like Edward Bernays. I'm like, who the hell's Edward Bernays? And I have to go look him up and figure out, well, he is the nephew of Freud. And Edward Bernays is the father of modern propaganda who worked with Disney. And I'm, whoa, that's a rabbit hole. And I've heard like little.
That is.
I've heard little, you know, things on FreemanTV.com, Freeman Fly. He'll like drop all these bombs. But unless I get like the notion, if I hear it in my head, the word, the name, that's what happens to me. And then I do the research. And then I really know it because it came to me from on high. And then I do the real world research, the physical. So I get the metaphysical and make it physical. And I wouldn't know so much that history is repeating unless I'd heard the word Bolshevik, unless many different times I've heard different things, clairaudience, that point me in the right direction. But it also makes me feel as if I have a sky posse above me who watches what I watch. And we work together with the Most High to bring more love and knowledge to this planet, more light, which is knowledge and love to this planet. So I just wanted to talk about that because there are other people out there that are phenomenal, like I am, that get literally no credit. Nobody knows. They keep their hypocrites, they keep their mouth shut about it, and they have absolutely no support in this world. And if people aren't mirroring you and recognizing you, then it might as well be not happening at all. So that's me compassionately giving my weirdness out there so that others can understand that they're not so weird and that they can maybe get a better connection and learn even more.
You just described my program and me. I'm not kidding. It's like, that's what I feel. It's like, I feel like this show could be so much bigger if, I guess, if I did the right thing, or I don't even know. But I also know that I don't want to sell out, if that makes sense.
Never. You don't want to get demonetized and deleted, and you don't want to sell out.
Exactly. And I feel like if I sell out, then maybe the show will get picked up more, or maybe, you know,
it would.
And so it's like, but and I got so many other things going on. Like you were mentioning earlier, you know, I'm the head of the household. You know, I have my wife, I have my kids, I have a job. I want to be responsible. What I've noticed by doing this over the last 5 years, most radio hosts are single.
Yes, and lonely.
Everything goes back to Art Bell for me.
Of course
for some
it
reason.
does. Of course it does.
And you know, I know Art Bell he wasn't necessarily single, but you know, he did have a wife, but I don't remember if they had children or not. But it just seems to me like he was the one that can keep it together. And you know, he was more successful than a lot of people today who do this on the internet. And a lot of people who do this on the internet, I feel, are, like I mentioned, they're either single, they don't have families, they don't have a lot of responsibility. Some of them probably even live with their parents, you know.
Yeah, on the internet, they sure do.
And that's what I'm trying to say. And yet, it seems like they get a lot more of the recognition, a lot more viewers, a lot more, because they spend time doing the show, their show so much. Everything else goes out the window. They don't. This is what they care about. This is what they want to do, whether or not it's for their ego or it's for people's information.
9 times out of 10, if they are doing this day after day after day, like Styx, Hex, and Hammer 666, he's very popular. He does at least a video a day, if not 3 or 4.
Who's that?
Styx, Hex, and Hammer 666, or Charles Warwick. He's very popular. He was on InfoWars last month, which is weird because he's not an InfoWars kind of guy.
Well, that puts, that makes me question Alex Jones more and more.
Good luck with that. Question Alex all you want, but he's a target. I mean, if you're going to find out something real, it's not about what's behind all of this success. You're probably not going to find out from Alex Jones. You've got to dig deeper than that. Like, who are the money men behind the shows? And the thing I wanted to address is the regular YouTuber or content creators that do video after video after video. I've noticed this. I've been on YouTube for over 10 years. I have lots of videos, of hundreds. And I would never do the 3 shows, boom, 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 because I understand when someone is coming into your living room every day, into your head, into your mind, that there is going to develop an obsession with that person. Now, if you're an addictive personality, boy, you're going to get super obsessed with that person, buy all their merch, do all their stuff, and you're going to become a cult follower. And I never, ever, ever, ever will be a cult leader. Never. And so part of my shyness, it might seem that way, I'm a veiled lady, part of my not offering my full self to the internet and doing videos every day is because I don't want to stir that unhealthy attitude in people that would watch me.
Mhm.
The obsession, what do we covet, Clarice? We covet what we see every day, Dr. Lector. So I understood the power and the magic, the drawing like a vampire almost, that these people are getting off of their audience. And so that's a difficult thing that's never been addressed as far as I'm concerned. I've never seen anyone talk about it. And this year I am being challenged to do more videos, but I will have to do a lecture on this, on why it's very unhealthy to always watch the same person and think they're your best friend. Oh my God, they love me so much and I love them back and we're just awesome.
Speaking of
That's
friends,
obsession. Okay.
yeah. Speaking of friends, isn't it funny how that show has shown the test of time? Friends, the actual show,
Right.
and it's funny because I remember there was a show on Fox way back in the late '80s when Fox was just starting, and it was called Mad TV.
Right.
And they did a parody of this guy who lived with his mom, of course, and he always made it sound like he was having like this little get together, this little party. He's like, my friends are coming over, my friends are coming, my friends, and it ended up being the TV show Friends.
Wow. See, that's a perfect little antidote. And the thing that Friends was so awesome is because they got the archetypes right. These little characters were so archetypal. Like, okay, here's 5 people I know. Let's call it Phoebe.
He really I mean, it was parody, but at the same time, I felt sad for this guy. I'm like,
Oh,
there's real people out there that are probably just like this fictional character who really believes friends are his friends.
yeah.
I mean, he was, and people laughed, and I laughed too. But he'd be like, "Oh, Chandler, you're so funny," and oh, Phoebe is, really getting on so and so, and it's like he was really acting like this is everything was he was being addressed to by these people on TV, even though like this was a skit. I was thinking to myself, this is real people probably are acting this way with this show.
More than you know, and not just Friends. I mean, look at the New Age UFO community, period. They're all doing it. I mean, Captain Kirk is their savior, dude. The Space Force literally is using iconography from the United Nations, which created the Star Trek series. So we can see the symbology. I just want to get into that real quick, is that usually if you have a cult leader or a brand, and there's a symbology behind the brand, right?
Oh, yeah.
And all of this is broadcasting or projecting to your third eye, just like the TV did when you were little.
Well, I think Gene Roddenberry was involved in some kind of a cult, wasn't he, or something like that? To the maybe Dianetics.
I believe that what these people are social engineers, which
Okay.
means they get together at, not Roddenberry in particular. Like, I couldn't see Roddenberry at the Bilderberg meeting. He's not cuddling up with a Rothschild, but he will be hired to create a TV series that will brainwash generations into getting us a space force, which is just another way to make the slaves pay for something that isn't real. And I'm still one of those old school believers that we didn't go to the moon. And why should you hear me more than maybe someone else? Is because I am the grandniece of Senator John Glenn, the astronaut. So I believe they dosed those boys up with some LSD and told them they went to the moon. But I don't talk about that too much.
You're the grandniece
Mhm.
of John Glenn.
Yes, bloodline.
I did
Remember
not.
what I said about bloodlines and secret
Right.
adoptions? So my grandmother, Evelyn Fay, is this, well, they're all dead now, but she is the blood sister of Senator John Glenn. This was during the Depression. So my great grandmother, Daisy, put them in a children's home, and then we believe sold John Glenn in this secret adoption, because grandma also, as I grew up, grandma always went to the Glenn family reunion and no one else was invited. And they weren't Jehovah's Witnesses. That's what I was told. Well, we don't go there because they're not Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, oh, but all my childhood and all of my other people in the family, my cousins, everybody knows this story. We were raised on it.
Wow, family secrets.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we have to clean up these bloodlines so it doesn't keep repeating generation after generation the way it's been going. We also cure alcoholism. My father died of alcoholism. I don't drink. In fact, if I take a sip, it doesn't go well in my body. It's really gross.
Well, we shouldn't put it in our body anyway, because apparently what they say about alcohol and spirits are true.
Yes, that's the thing. We used to call them spirits. So back home in Ireland, you woke up from an old hag, right? And everybody's gathering around you. Oh, honey, you poor thing. Here, have a drink, get over it, you know, and some more spirits. And then, you know, I grow up to beat my wife or something, you know. So we can see the patterns of the ego here. And this is what we're here to break. And you understand that the media and politics and the environment we're in right now is to break the ego, to break the false illusion. Now, the ego will get you to bathe, get you to eat, get you to put on clothes, and might even make you look pretty or something. That's what the ego's for. That's when it's healthy. And then when it starts obsessing at all about others or self, that's when it's out of balance. But I'll tell you, it's in childhood when they push our egos out of balance.
Oh, yeah.
Childhood. And that's when we're told fairies aren't real, Santa Claus never lived. And, you know, they take away the metaphysical from the child. And that's why I think Harry Potter was a really good thing for America, because we got to believe again. And I got to believe with my child and say, look, mommy's a witch. Looky, Harry Potter, you know? And so it gave me a language to speak to my child about something I do that not necessarily he would ever want to do, but to glamorize it a little bit so mommy's not scary and what mommy does isn't scary. So, and back to Ireland, those people in the house in Ireland would have been like, let's watch Harry Potter, you know, because they all would have gotten it. Here we are in a veil of lies. We were born in the veil of lies, and we have to fight our way out of that.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I'm glad that it's part of your mission to do that. And that's,
thank you.
That was not actually originally my mission when I started doing this. Honestly, my mission, if you want to call it that, to start a podcast or a online radio show, whatever you want to call it, was because when I started listening to Art Bell, when I started listening to people like Clyde Lewis, when I started listening to people like Jimmy Church, I liked what they were doing, what they were saying. I liked the interviews. I liked the information. But what I really liked was the fact that people were calling in.
Oh, yeah.
And sharing what they had to say. And I was more interested in that than, you know, whoever the host was or whoever the guest was. I liked, like I said, I liked hearing a little bit about what they had to say and all that, but I loved hearing the people calling in and sharing. And it was just amazing to me that I love that part of the show. So that's why I started doing what I did.
They're connecting it to the real world. So you can hear some highfalutin author talk about stuff, but then grandma from down the street calls in and says, I saw that entity. That entity's been with me since I was a kid. And that's what makes it real. That's what drives it home. It's like, I know grandma. That's grandma.
Yeah.
You know, again, back to Ireland and family and love and coming together and supporting each other, even in the darkness. It's just that we, especially in California, the darkness is denied completely. There's nobody's looking. It's so sunny here. Everything's beautiful and freaking fine. You know, it's the California, as they call it. But
well, they have to.
I don't understand that. And I definitely call it brainwashing. And it was shocking when I got out here and everybody thinks they're on TV every day. I was like, dude, where's the real world?
In my opinion, it's because California is bought and paid for.
Two, three families actually have ruled over California for centuries. I just watched like a show on this. Obviously, I didn't retain all of it, but yeah, there's some bloodline families here that run this show, and Newsom is related to them.
Right. And Pelosi's related to him.
Yeah, that too. See, I hate.
Well, Pelosi's actually his aunt, I believe.
See, that's right. See, I couldn't even remember that. The blood.
Yeah, it's like freaking. Yeah, it's like the mob. It really is. It's a lot
like the mob. But if you listen to David Icke, who's been on all those shows you've just talked about, he will say they're all related by bloodline, and this is the big club that we're not in. George Carlin.
Oh, I love that. He's so honest when he says that, and people at first they're like. They're laughing because they think it's funny, but then it's like, no, he's dead serious. He's telling you the truth.
That is the best comedian. I swear I had a Kundalini awakening last summer, not just this past one, the one before it. And for at least one day, we were all voting for who is the king of comedy for this crazy thing we're about to go through. And we all voted George Carlin. So George Carlin's the king of comedy. Under that, we do have Weird Al. He was the second in the running.
Weird Al, yeah, I could see
Because
that.
of his musical talent, of course, and the way that people can just sing the songs. But there are more Weird Al type people coming out right now with the most awesome music about COVID-19 and about lockdowns and about everything we're going through. People are sheeple, so why should it be?
Trying to control us with a scary disease. Clearly they'll shame us for not wearing a mask. They do just what they're told, they didn't bother to ask. They can't understand why it's a scam and an evil plan. Help them understand. People are sheeple, so why should we give away our rights to please the CDC? Masked people are sheeple, so how can we expect for them to somehow lead society?
My point is this.
Good morning. The story, so I won't be no mindless and PC. I told show up. So if that's what you're into, then go ahead and move along. Because you know it's all about the cases, no virus. It's all about the cases, no science. It's all about the cases, no logic. It's all about the cases. Hey, they're bringing Tilly back. Go ahead and tell them nosy snitches that.
Really covering songs and changing the lyrics to make us feel better and empower us to come together in truth.
Back to the best comedian. Yes, George Carlin for sure.
Hands down, even in the 50s when he did his stand-up, he was still right on it. And people realized, like, it washed over us, like everything he's saying is true, but we didn't take it home. We didn't say, this is our world, because he was on a stage, because he was a jester.
Brought me to a stage right there in the evening at the Shakti Festival. I had a microphone in my hand and I was standing up. I was on a carpet because that's the only place I felt safe. And I began to channel beloved ones who have come before us, those of great wisdom. And the channeling began with George Carlin. If you're going to have an ego death, do you have to plan a funeral? Put fun back in the funeral. Ego death for the Westerner in your life. And how do you go about planning something like that out? Well, who would you invite? Would their egos also have to be dead to be able to be invited so that they get it? Well, if you don't want to end up in the psych ward, I would think so. Never invite the muggles to an ego death. How do you sneak around the ego? Like, yeah, I'm planning this funeral, but don't tell my ego. You know, all hell's gonna break loose if they find out. Do you give a speech? I don't know, just all this electricity started up my body, and there was fire, and there was flames, and then my ego collapsed. And I realized I was on the stage and in the lights, just like one of those celebrity people. Do you write a eulogy? Dear ego, I will miss you not ever again. Thank you. Love, soul. And with that, they close the proceedings, and the ego is put upon the great sacred boat, set aflame, and set out to sea, the sea of samsara. Thank you, thank you. I'm here all
On the
weekend.
Tonight Show, he was on the Tonight Show in a suit,
Yes, I got that clip.
cleaned up and everything, and he was great. You know, he didn't curse, of course, but
No, he was a straight man back in the day.
he was
before
straight.
started going crazy.
Yeah, it was
I hope women
really
go crazy in this.
it was really
environment.
interesting. So now under George Carlin, though,
Yes.
I have to put BillHicks.
Okay. Yep.
And
He was a late comer to the game, BillHicks.
he was, and I'll also say this. Interestingly enough, they didn't do this with George Carlin, probably because he was more mainstream. But when I say they, I talk about the cabal or
Right.
whoever. I really feel that they did keep BillHicks down, and they're trying to like wipe him away from history, because I didn't really know about BillHicks until I started getting more and more into the conspiracy theorists, you know, quote unquote. And when I listen to him, I'm like, and I can't get enough of his videos, but there's not a lot out there.
Yeah. But he is a teacher, you see, and so is Carlin. They're teachers using the jester character to teach through.
Exactly.
And many people say that this, you got to bring it up. Come on, that Alex Jones is actually BillHicks.
BillHicks. You know, it's funny because there's a couple of videos where he actually says that too. Alex Jones will be like, he'll say like, he's like, yes, Alex Jones is BillHicks. And the way he says it is like, yes, Alex Jones is BillHicks. But if you really listen to him, you might actually hear him believe. He believes Alex Jones is BillHicks.
Well, I believe that Alex can be convinced of anything.
Maybe.
But everybody's like, look at the ears, do the ears match and all that. And that's been happening on YouTube for at least as long as YouTube's been around. And I think it's just now that the main, you know, the bigger group of people are understanding, like Michelle Obama is also called Michael Obama. Why? Because we watch the YouTube
we know
videos.
Yes, that's right. That's
so
right.
many of us have been experiencing this for over 10 years and like, oh, the Saturn worshippers, we're going to talk about Saturn today, you know, and all of those, they're trends among the content creators. And it's a lot of them are shills who are just trying to get money for themselves. Like, ooh, let's freak some people out and get some money going here. And what you were saying that maybe they kept BillHicks down, I think they kept George Carlin down too. I mean,
I think so too.
Could have been so much bigger. You've got to sell out to get in. That's the thing. Now, if you're in it for the money, you're gonna sell yourself out, period. But if you're on a mission, you know, then that's your heart speaking, and then you're following your spiritual path. Whether you're doing a show, it doesn't have to be a spiritual show at all. If you're following your spiritual path, and then that money, who gives a shit first? Who cares? As long as you're not starving, as long as you're okay. But to acquire great amounts of wealth out of nothing, it's thievery, it's manipulation, and it really is mostly what marketing is today.
It is. You talked about sleep paralysis, and we kind of went over the history a little bit, and we talked a little bit more about what sleep paralysis is. Now, what you wanted to go in the direction that you were telling me when we were talking. Remember, here I am beating around the bush again. How is it being applied today, and who's behind it? Because remember, there are forces out there, and what you were trying to explain to me is sleep paralysis isn't right now is basically part of what those forces are doing to us.
And I would say always through antiquity, always were. You might not realize that we've always been ruled by some royal or army. Something has always ruled over the peasants. And I know it's pretty hard to think of us as peasants, but we actually are. We're the poor. We are
Working poor,
our
by
class.
the way.
Yeah, it's our class system, which is a caste system.
Yeah.
And what
Not too far from being slaves.
I literally think we are slaves.
In a way, I can see that.
Enslaved. Yeah. And we always have been. Because think about being farmers back in the day with all the muck and the mire. Well, that we had white slaves, black slaves. See, that's the thing. It's not race,
That's the thing.
class. It's class. It's class.
That's right. Yep.
It's always been class. And
Yep.
so we have what raises to the top in our society? Well, maniacal psychos raised to the top of our society, or as Styx Hexenhammer says, perverts in power. Save the children. So what we see here is that to get ahead in this materialistic world, so we could say that maybe darkness rules this world, because I believe the Bible says that, and many other traditions say there's a darkness that is ruling this material world, right? And you can even go back to that's the Apple lesson, to discern good from evil. That's the reason why it's there. You could say that. But we do have to like put in the concept that there are forces that rule this planet as a whole consciously. So the negative people have made it to the top, and then they push down everyone else. And I think right now we're going through a cleansing or a reaping. Many people are going to lose their lives due to what's coming, because that's been engineered to happen by those in power. Okay, so this is not nature, this is not God, this is the elites and what they have been planning. And this
Are we talking about COVID?
I don't want to put one label on it, but we can say the coming months, it will be revealed how many people are going to be dying. I mean,
So we're not even in the beginning stages right now. I mean, it hasn't even shown its face yet.
I mean, we don't see bodies. That's the thing that I've been warned about for.
Oh, my cousin's passed away from COVID. Well, supposedly from COVID.
Well, no,
and I'm gonna say I say that, yeah, and I say that only because I'm still not convinced it is what they say it is. Because if it is the same thing everyone has been getting, then why isn't everybody dying? That is what I'm trying to explain. I'm trying to get at. They're saying that this is okay. I'm not trying to make this a whole big COVID thing, but I want to get this clear. If it's killing people the way it's killing people, then why are people living and not getting it as bad as some of the, I mean, you can't just say, well, some people get it worse than others. I mean, yes, I can understand that. But if this is such a dreaded disease and it's so contagious and it's so deadly and this and that and blah, 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 then why does, Joe Blow get it and he gets a fever and, he has to, lay down for a few days, but that, so-and-so gets it. And right away they're in the hospital and they're in a, and they're under a ventilator. And 5 days later they're dead.
And they say that's the ventilator.
Well, that part is true.
And how
that part is true.
Statistically stayed home and got over the flu, and how many went into the hospital and got murdered over the flu? I've had way too many clients and friends lose people, so I'm kind of pissed, but this is pale in comparison to where we're going.
Okay.
And so I believe the medical profession, I've always believed this since I learned about what they did to witches and healers and shamans and how they slaughtered them to make way for the Western medical system, and how the plague doctors actually spread the plague to kill the people. What is the point of killing a bunch of people? Well, the elites understand and know, especially now more like than they've ever known before, is that there is more of us than them. They are a precious few, and we are the hordes of millions. And so the Georgia Guidestones lay out their plan.
500 million.
Thank you. And the Bible even says a third of the planet. And that's what Hermes told me, my spirit guide. He's like, well, we can go with that third of the planet. It's close enough. And so people don't realize that there is a snake and it is constricting around their neck as a collective, as all of us, as a culture. Our culture is dying because it's being murdered. You know, I do believe, just real quick, after all this, we're going to have a party. Okay, it's all good. But we got to go through this. We got to hold hands and do this together. But it is the powerful elite that so much has leaked out over the past year and a half with Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. So much has leaked out. The Royal Buckingham Palace is for frickin' sale. They are taking art out of actual museums and
I was
selling
shocked
it.
when you told me about that.
So I just want you to understand, this is the rats leaving the ship. The elites are the rats. And nobody's seen the Queen for a while. I mean, she's obviously not at home. Knock, knock, real estate agent. So people maybe don't have a lot of the facts because they don't look in alternative places for facts. But I have the facts and I'm freaking out that we've never been at this place before. Now,
No.
when I was younger, I thought, wow, 2012, we've never been here before. And, you know, how neat that people are writing books and talking about a phenomenon. How neat is that? This is totally different. This is the real thing. This is not a show. This is not a drill. And so what I was trying to say is that there's dark force, which is that Bardo realm, that where the dead go that can't go home because they're really messed up. Those things are sleep paralysis demons. Those things are our ancestors that never got well and were, you know, murderers, tyrants, pirates, you know, all these negative things. They are actually running the consciousness of these bodies that we call politicians. I believe that the people who have made it into this special space of the political realm are a very particular type of demon. I really do. And so to take all the labels out of it, there's light and lack of light, right? Absence of light. And you could say that these people's light are so diminished that they have to feed off of us like vampires. And they do it in the biggest ways possible, especially Hollywood. You know that they're getting there. If you look in their eyes, they can take your energy. I don't even think about it. Bing. They can take your energy instead of giving it, right? Yeah. And it's the opposite of what a guru is. It's a freaking vampire. And so I do believe in vampires, not in a traditional way, but in an energetic way.
Energy vampires, right?
I definitely do. And I see that if you're an elite, if you've made a bunch of money or you come from a family of a lot of money, you have blood on your soul if you have a soul left anyway. So these people, maybe you could heal them, maybe we could work on it, but really they're psychotic. And this is God's play, in my opinion. This is God's game. It's not for me to go shoot somebody because I'm not a killer. I'm not going to become something to get rid of something. You see, that's ridiculous.
Would you do it to protect your loved one?
Yes, to protect life. Like I'm being attacked. Nancy Pelosi is not at my door. She is not knocking on my door asking me to give her money or something. So these people aren't in my life at all. I'm not political, and I hate the political system because I see it as a system.
As do I.
It's a cult. It's a demonic cult. It's a death cult. They worship death. And really, in the deeper inner parts of them, if they have them, they hate themselves. They hate waking up in the morning. They hate this reality, this existence. They hate. Like that's their one thing. Where a lot of us have love and we love, and that's all we know is just to love. They are that lack, that opposite, that hungry ghost that wants to eat your light. And so I do put out a warning on November 4th. Every vote is a vote for Lucifer. And please go back to Theosophy and find out who Theosophists think Lucifer is. They still worship Lucifer at the United Nations. I do a lot of blogs on this and work on this. But so I'm sure I've mentioned it before. It's still such an important point. H.P. Blavatsky is one of the social engineers and Aleister Crowley that we have to blame for what's going on right now.
I believe that. I definitely believe that. There was a lot of things that Crowley did that really, really, really messed up our reality. Yeah,
I want to say
and
that with COVID being a hoax or whatever, I've actually done so much research. My favorite researcher on this topic is the last American Vagabond and Whitney Webb. And you will see that there is a scientific test that they do to all viruses to isolate it to make sure it is what it is, to prove that in science, to prove that it's a new virus. And it's called Koch postulates, which is spelled Koch, Koch postulates. And they made an attempt to do this with the COVID-19, but they could not isolate it. So now they're going on science frickin' fiction. Everywhere from there was science fiction. If you can't do that in the lab and say this is what it is and pigeonhole it, and then it's not science at all. And I've known this for a very long time, that doctors in the medical, because the doctors are lying, they may not know it. They're indoctrinated. They're also in that cult-like groupthink. Academia in general is full of social engineers. If you don't follow the story that's going around in academia, they will ban you. They will blackball you. They will get you the heck out of there. And just like I had some pretty good starts over with Jimmy Church and all these kinds of people interested in me until they found out I don't follow no narratives. I do what God says and what my spirit guides say and what feels right in my heart as a being. And there's no way I'm going to be some blue-haired chicken talking about aliens that don't exist.
My 2019 started in December 2018. And there was plenty of drama. From Teresa Llaneros running away to explaining esoterica, both from Jimmy Church's camp, and they both apparently disliked me enough to block me. I asked her on camera if she could explain what esoteric means, and she refused. And so I made fun of her on Twitter about it. And then I got a very stern phone call from Jimmy Church. So you can do the math on that one.
Welcome to the room of people who have rooms of people that they love one day docked away. You love another psychopath sitting next to you. You love another murderer sitting next to you. You think I'd get it sitting next to you. But after all I've said, please don't forget. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. Why'd you come? You knew you should have stayed. I tried to warn just to stay away. And now they're outside ready to buzz. It looks like you might be one of us.
I'd like to ask, for you to take this opportunity right now to tell us where we can find you and everything that's you.
Okay, great. My name is Corinne Wilson, and you can find me at occultpriestess.com. I am a spiritual soul counselor. So if you want to know what's up with your soul, like where you are in consciousness and what the next steps might be, I'd love to help you. I love discovering where people are on their path. It helps me learn more about myself. And that's kind of part of the reason why I've been doing it for 30 years. And one of the kindest, most compassionate, most knowledgeable spiritual person that actually tries to make their living this way. So I hope that you will support that and support yourself, more importantly, on the journey by having a little meeting with me. I also do, my work in this world is to warn people. So I do a lot of conspiracy research, which is really just research, but we put the word conspiracy on it to say, hey, you didn't hear this in the mainstream. You won't see this in books. This is the hidden stuff. And occult means hidden. And I am the priestess of that shit, man.